Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining this webinar hosted by the World Federation of Exchanges. I'm your host and moderator, James Orliff. I am a senior manager here at the WFE on the regulatory affairs side, and I cover market structure, tech, and tax issues. Before I let my guests or our guests introduce themselves, I'm going to do a quick plug for the WFE. So the WFE was founded in 1961, and it is the global trade association for exchange groups, exchanges, and standalone CCPs. We are headquartered in London, and we represent over 250 pieces of market infrastructure, from frontier markets to household names. We do lots of great stuff over at the WFE, but I like to think of us as having three major roles. And firstly, that's education. So we think about education for our members in terms of being a platform for them to share best practice and to raise standards across the industry. And then for the wider community and the public at large, we demystify the role of exchanges and explain how they are valuable in developing economic growth. Secondly, we are strong and vocal advocates for the value that exchanges and CCPs bring to society overall, whether that be for investors, issuers, or corporates, and the role that it has in improving the economy. We like to champion the role of exchanges around liquidity and price discovery, the value of multilateral netting when you're engaging with a CCP, and we articulate the market integrity, investor protection, and financial stability you get from engaging through market infrastructure. And we take this message to policymakers around the globe, and in particular, the international standard setting bodies like IOSCO. And then our final role is more looking at research and data. If you check our website, you'll find the definitive source for exchange traded statistics. And we also have a team of in-house economists producing rigorous, relevant research on topics of critical interest to our members, but also to markets and policymakers as well. So if you are an exchange or CCP, or you work for an exchange or CCP that is not a member of the WFE, and you are on this call, I would very much encourage you to reach out, get in touch, discuss membership. And if you are already a member of the WFE, I would also encourage you to reach out and get in touch with us. We love to hear from you. We want to hear about your issues, and we want to make sure that you're getting the most out of your membership. Okay, my plug is finished, so I'm going to turn to our wonderful friends here at Beeks to get themselves to introduce themselves. Let's start with Matthew P.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Matt Pilkington, and I look after the European commercial function here at Beeks. I've personally been within the managed service provider space for over a decade now, and specifically within the last 5 years, been working very, very closely with exchanges, taking our products to market together. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to getting stuck in.
Really helpfully, we have more than one Matt on this call. So Matt C.
We tried to get three Matts from Beeks, but the other Matt was unavailable, so Steve's filling in. I'm Matt Cretney. I'm head of product at Beeks. So that means I cover both our infrastructure as a service offering, as well as analytics and market edge intelligence, our software solutions. Before Beeks, I was 20 years at Thomson Reuters and its kind of related companies. And I work primarily on the FX product there, which wasn't centrally cleared, to go back to your WFE intro, but did share many characteristics of an exchange. So, I work closely with the surveillance team there. And also when we transitioned it to a colo, we had to deal with lots of challenges around, cable equalization, equal access, that kind of thing. So yes, really nice to be here, James. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. And Steve.
Hi, James. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Rogers, CTO of Analytics at Beeks Group. I've been with Beeks since my previous company, Velocimetrics, was acquired back in 2020. I've been working in and around electronic trading since life. So London Futures Exchange was as migrated to electronic trading from OpenCry in the 90s, so I've seen quite a bit of evolution in this space. Over the years, I've focused on developing high-performance, network-based observability solutions for capital markets and working with exchanges around the world on real-time monitoring, alerting, and regulatory compliance at scale. There's been a common theme in my work: you can't improve what you can't measure. These days at Beeks, my focus is on bringing AI and analytics to that challenge and building platforms that help capital markets infrastructure become genuinely intelligent. Happy to be here talking about where the space is heading today.
Amazing. Thanks, Steve. So we're going to dive straight into questions for the panelists, but to the audience, just if you have any questions, please put them in the chat bar. I will try and incorporate them where I think they're relevant, or we'll just come back to them towards the end of the session if I can't figure out where to put them. All right, Matthew Pete, so tell us a bit more about Beeks. This is your second webinar with the WFE, your second webinar with me, if so lucky. So for those who weren't on the first one, can you give us a bit more background about your company?
Truly lucky, mate. Truly lucky. So we at Beeks, we offer infrastructure as a service and analytics capabilities purely within financial services and capital markets, but not just exchanges, brokers, buy side, sell side, software vendors, all of those guys are partners of ours today in some capacity, but definitely exchanges are our more strategic client base. So on the previous webinar, we spoke in detail with the Australian Securities Exchange about how they were lowering the barriers to entry, adding a new evolution to their co-location product. And this has been possible through our trademark product, which is called Beeks Exchange Cloud. And this product is a combination of our infrastructure and analytics capabilities that we take to market together with exchanges. But Beeks as a company, we're about 120 employees strong. Most, if not all of those staff have a very technical background, deep expertise within capital markets. But I personally think what makes us unique is not just our product suite or our staff. It's the nature of how we work with our clients. So we're seen as a strategic partner, not just another client vendor.
So yeah, good coverage of the market participants, but mainly exchanges are your customers. And I know you've been working quite a lot with the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. That's been a big deal for you guys since 2022. So can you tell me about that strategic partnership and what you're developing with them and with others? Or tell us, more importantly, than me.
Yeah, definitely. I think I might as well be an honorary South African at this rate. Over the last few years, I've spent months and months on site in Cape Town and Joburg, which really isn't a bad gig. But I've spent my time there understanding clients' challenges, evolving our products, hosting roadshow demos, listening to feedback on the ground. But I think most importantly, talking about how the next 5 to 10 years looks for that region. And the exchange members, they really end up becoming part of our indirect client base as well. So from a commercial, operational support angle, we're all in it together. So it really doesn't work if we aren't partners and we aren't all working together in that respect. That closeness in the relationship means that we deepen our trust a lot quicker. We have a deeper understanding of where our products can really solve real life client problems. And when I think about that, that's one of the reasons why we've created our new product, which is called Market Edge Intelligence, which we'd like to talk to you about today.
That was a fantastic and sneaky segue, Matthew P. I'm going to turn to Steve then. As we've just heard, you've launched Market Edge Intelligence, this tool in the summer. Can you explain what the product is and what it does?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So Edge Intelligence is the first AI analytics platform purpose-built for capital markets infrastructure. The key's in the name. It lives at the edge, right next to your data sources. So delivering real-time insights at the moment that they matter. This helps you catch issues early, spot emerging risks, and then uncover trading opportunities that traditional tools would usually miss. It consumes data from your infrastructure layer, order flows, trade data, market feeds, and any external sources that you want to blend in with that. It then makes running machine learning surprisingly simple. You can use a range of machine learning models and find correlations that weren't really detectable before, but without needing a PhD in data science. The outputs are flexible. You can get automated alerting, real-time dashboards, support tickets can be generated, or interactive notebooks where your team can collaborate and share repeatable workflows. It works across any asset class, but we've seen particularly strong interest from exchanges around market integrity and surveillance, where real-time AI helps you detect manipulation, maintain fair and orderly markets, and also stay ahead of increasingly sophisticated bad actors.
Yeah, thanks. That tallies with what we are hearing over the WFE. Like, the AI is the big use case. The first one that most of our members think of is the market surveillance angle. Matt C, can you tell me how market edge intelligence can be used by exchanges and how you're using it to support market integrity, or how they're using it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, maybe I should define or discuss market integrity a little bit more. So, traditionally, often people think of market integrity in terms of a market that operates fairly, orderly and transparently, and is free from manipulation and abuse. So often people's minds jump to things like surveillance alerts, compliance reports, regulatory audits, those kind of processes. But from what we see from talking to exchanges, often surveillance teams face a real uphill battle, and they have challenges like too many alerts from the surveillance tools, or gaps or inconsistencies in the underlying data, or speaking a different language to other teams at the exchange and being slightly isolated. Now, at the same time, not just the surveillance team, but everyone at the exchanges feels under pressure at times from exchange participants who've, some of whom have become far more technically sophisticated. So, at Beeks, we go to a lot of the, the industry events, and a lot of the people, especially at non-banks, at the very sophisticated end of the spectrum, they'll know more about the engineering of an exchange's platform than most people at the exchange will themselves. And they're working to exploit that information. I absolutely wouldn't call them bad actors. They're just doing, what they need to do. But it does mean, with that technical sophistication, exchange teams now, whether they're in surveillance, whether they're in product, trading operations, or infrastructure, they all need to start understanding some of the same concepts. So things like adverse selection, queuing, that kind of thing. And that's where we see market edge intelligence come in. So it provides a common data platform for multiple different groups at the exchange to use. It's based on wired data, and it doesn't replace surveillance tools. It interoperates with them. We don't think that surveillance teams are looking for extra tools or sort of alternative tools. Where edge intelligence comes in is a couple of ways, principally. So firstly, it can act as a data source for surveillance systems. So it can provide extremely accurate timestamped wire data at scale. And the accuracy of the timestamps helps to reduce the number of false positives that you'll get from your surveillance tools. Or secondly, you can use it to consume alerts from a surveillance system and apply additional layers of analysis on top of that. So kind of an automated kind of case working on top of what your existing surveillance system is doing. And we do see it used outside of sort of surveillance use cases as well for classic pure regulatory monitoring, like Reg 603 in the US. So ultimately for us, it's about partnership with the exchanges, helping exchanges, strengthen their integrity and insight, and using the new technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning to do that.
So this is then one of those like great use cases of AI that's more about optimizing something that already happens. And is that right? Yeah. Okay, so then how do you, sticking with Matsy here, how do you see this market edge intelligence tool evolving with exchanges as they're modernizing their infrastructure and responding to changing market dynamics?
I mean, well, I mean, I'd be interested to hear Matt and Steve's take on this. I guess you know, we've seen it used in a few different areas. So you know, one of the key ones is around capacity management at the exchange. So outside of surveillance, you know, exchanges can combine order flow patterns with reference data like economic calendars, and rather than being just sort of retrospective about how is the capacity and performance of my gateway currently performing, we're starting to see them use that data for predictive type analyses. So anticipating gateway performance over the course of the trading day and making capacity decisions based on data, you know, that's referenceable, rather than pure kind of judgment, which is sometimes the case today. I don't know, Steve, would you see it kind of as going, you know, how would you see that, like predictive versus sort of monitoring?
I think it's not just about the monitoring these days. So building on the points you made about capacity management, I think the real transformation is that monitoring and intelligence are becoming one and the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's surveillance teams tracking manipulation or ops teams, you know, looking at management of performance of the infrastructure, everybody needs systems that don't just report what's happened, but explain why and predict what's coming next. I think the evolution doesn't really stop at diagnostics either. So these platforms are going to become more prescriptive. So that means automatically adjusting capacity, so building in kind of elastic capabilities into the infrastructure, refining parameters, and potentially responding to emerging patterns in real time. Mm-hmm. So based on what matters most, maintaining fair, reliable, and high quality markets.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, like James, I know it sounds slightly futuristic when we talk about kind of prediction and tools that provide that. I think a lot of people tend to be caught up in the monitoring space, but it's something that we already see customers doing today. So you know, whether that's predicting matching engine stress before it happens, correlating suspicious trading patterns with infrastructure anomalies, or linking the infrastructure performance to market quality outcomes. So feeding in data like spreads, depth, or execution quality, and combining that with like the raw data from the wire that the infrastructure tools are collecting. So that's, I guess, how we see it evolving from our initial use cases. Is there anything you'd add to that, Matt P?
I think you guys have put that beautifully. For me, and I will come on to it later in the webinar, just that added intelligence that any of our audience members on the call might have with regards to their data at the moment. It's just thinking about the competitive advantage that they will have either internally or with external clients. And as Matt said, it's without thinking too futuristic, it's having that extra edge to the data that previously it's never been possible to have that before. I think the guys, without repeating what they said, I think it was well put.
Great, thanks everyone. So then, Steve, you were talking about surveillance teams using machine learning to improve their workflow. Can you provide some examples of which machine learning techniques are useful there?
Sure, let me give you a few concrete examples. So first would be anomaly detection. So that's picking up things like sudden changes in latency or unusual order submission patterns. So the kind of subtle shifts, not necessarily the gross movement that traditional alerting would pick up. So subtle shifts that might indicate someone's exploiting a vulnerability or that you've got some kind of trend towards infrastructure that's degrading. Clustering is another one. So looking at spotting outliers across training sessions, perhaps. So maybe one participant's behavior looks nothing like their peer group, or one particular session stands out from thousands of others. So looking for where things are really similar or the outliers in behavior. Looking at, so those kind of similarities can pick out problems, things like wash trading or spoofing. They make the kind of things that are difficult for a human to see. The ML can try and pick those things out, make them visible. And then you've got techniques like forecasting, predictive modeling. So looking at basing historical trends, trying to figure out where they're going. So looking at things like volatility spikes, capacity constraints, or repetitive behavior from participants. Those kind of things might hit critical thresholds, but if you can get any kind of forewarning of that, it gives you time to investigate and potentially adjust capacity. We mentioned that in the future that kind of thing might happen automatically, but at the moment it would allow you to have some kind of time frame to intervene before you get disruption in the market. In the worst case, you might have to pull the exchange down to stop trading for a while, and that's kind of critical. Or some kind of violation happens and you have to answer to the regulators.
And nobody likes that.
Nobody likes
no. There's a question in the sidebar is potentially relevant to this point, so I might just stop here for a sec. So James Roberts says, how are your members or clients seeing AI change the threat environment? Is AI pushing threats up much faster than oversight departments can react? Has there got any reaction to that one?
That's a really good question.
Yes, I mean, we certainly, there are certainly trading participants whose strategies are heavily influenced by AI. I think in terms of pushing threats up faster than oversight departments can react, from what we see, a lot of that is driven by, more like the number of false positives being generated by poor data. I wouldn't see that the AI trading strategies themselves are generating more threats, but I'd be interested to hear everyone else's view.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to judge at this moment in time, really. And I think it's quite an expensive thing to put AI in the colo, for example, and have that like running at the edge. What we're trying to do with edge intelligence is embed just enough of that to be able to provide some kind of detection. And I've no doubt that there's potentially bad actors out there trying to do things with AI, but I think it's an emerging space. It'd be interesting to see how that's developing, but certainly it's the potential of it is there.
Yeah, and James, if you're thinking about it more in terms of a cybersecurity angle, I know that is it's front and foremost amongst our members' minds, how to deal with using AI to deal with cybersecurity, but also how AI can make cybersecurity more difficult for our members to handle. So moving on, next question, Matt C. I think it was you talking about it earlier, but one of you guys said you don't need to be a data scientist to use market edge intelligence. So what skills do you need to use market edge intelligence?
We designed it to be as complicated as the job role needs it to be, and to cater for a number of different job roles in the organization. Some people will be coming at it from a data science angle where they want access to Jupyter notebooks, they want to automate processes using Python to access the data, they're familiar with kind of integrating multiple data sources using SQL, or creating their own machine learning models. And so, we cater for that audience, certainly. So we provide clients with a Jupyter Notebook interface if they want to integrate with the data that way. And we've got other means of accessing the data directly. But there's also, for the user who just wants things kind of packaged for them and just wants outcomes, We have like a dashboard interface that's very clear in terms of alerts and draws your attention to where the system is behaving poorly, or where a particular event's sort of starting to occur, which you're worried about. And the advantage of doing that using machine learning is you can be alerting based on a change from kind of established behavior. So you're not necessarily in this world of always kind of tweaking thresholds and setting kind of manual alert rules. You can do that, of course. That's something that the system that we've been providing for a long time, and that existing surveillance tools can do. But you can also say, this is normal behavior. I want to know if things change from that normal behavior, and that's a key advantage of the machine learning techniques that we use.
So within a degree, it's customizable depending upon, and I'm going to use this in a nice way, like how nerdy you want to be about which I understand, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Some people want to lift the bonnet or the hood up, depending on whether they're American or English, and really to kind of tinker with the engine. Other people just want to drive the thing.
Okay, Matt P. Next question would be: do you see market edge intelligence being used outside of exchanges as well? And there is a question in the sidebar that's relevant for this one as well. So do you offer your edge solution to capital markets regulators? So outside of exchanges, and can you use it as a capital markets regulator?
Yeah, well, a very plain, straight answer is 100%. I currently personally have some very interesting conversations with some major investment banks and hedge funds at the moment. I obviously can't go into too much detail about what that is, but what I can say is they are using this product as a foundation to explore developing intelligence-based use cases that are specific to their needs. And ultimately, the way I see this kind of going is it's all about how edge intelligence can give not just exchanges, but any user a competitive advantage from their peers. So again, linked to the question, I can see a kind of trend moving forwards here where exchanges and our exchange partners are extending Beaks, extending us, extending our product into their members to either add value or solve problems for them. And I think the question was it around can we use edge intelligence for market regulators?
Exactly.
Yeah, and again, I'll kind of come on to this, I think, in my final answer, but absolutely, I think part of the webinar today, what we want to get across is sparking thoughts, sparking ideas, sparking other ways where the audience may think that a solution like this could add value to their data sets. So definitely, I'd be very interested to have a specific conversation with the person that raised that question. Yeah, we'd really like to talk about that.
That's great. Yeah, I think IOSCO's been making a big deal of this sort of like reg tech, sub tech question, right? Trying to figure out how regulators can make better use of technology to do their jobs a bit more easily. So then we may have just stolen your final answer to your answer to this next question. What excites you most about the future of this space then, Matt P? Or should I move on?
No, let me. I think I would like to elaborate a little further on the question as well, because it is the question has triggered a really important point that I personally wanted to kind of end the webinar with. But I think let's start with Steve, then Matt, and then I think we can end with me, because that really ties things together quite nicely. So Steve, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, sure, Matthew. Yes, for me, it's the most exciting thing for me is about solving problems at the edge that were never really practical before. So for many, many years, we've been working on capturing wire data and making sense of it. So the richest signals about market quality, whether it's manipulation patterns or infrastructure stress or participant behavior, they've always lived at the infrastructure layer. but extracting that real insight from that usually required moving like gigantic data sets, typically into cloud for end of day batch processing, whether it's regulations or kind of forecasting stuff, building big data lake houses. Complex pipelines are usually needed for that kind of stuff, and bringing back in the point earlier about having to have data scientists involved. So by the time you had answers to that, the moment had passed. It's always kind of reactive rather than proactive. Now, the possibility is there to run sophisticated ML right where that data lives in real time. So that unlocks entirely new questions. So things like, is this spike in latency creating unfair advantages or capacity constraints pushing flow off the exchange? Is infrastructure performance degrading market quality in ways that we haven't measured before? Those kind of cause and effect relationships, we have the ability to start to model them and predict them in real time. So we're turning that infrastructure data into something, from something that you monitor, like we talked about earlier, into something that generates strategic intelligence about your marketplace.
Yeah, I'll go next. I find it fascinating, James, that you managed to jump to a question about what excites us from a question about regulators, because I got to be honest that I was a technologist at my previous firm, and the regulations were absolutely something that didn't excite me. And I wanted to build like a faster trading platform, or I wanted to build something that was up like 100% of the time and didn't fail. Just had someone looking for a remote control in our meeting room there. Sorry, that was a bit of a distraction. But yeah, so I didn't find regulations that exciting, but I did really appreciate my colleagues who were able to articulate the regulations, who worked with the regulators and worked with me to understand them. And I think what helped us was speaking the same language, and we didn't have it perfect, but we had the beginnings of what kind of we're now building with Market Edge Intelligence, which is that kind of common platform that people who deal with the regulators can use, people who are technologists who want to kind of optimize the trading platform within the exchange can use. I think the way that tools like Market Edge Intelligence can break down those barriers within firms and create a kind of common language and common data platform is really exciting. I think ultimately you can see that if all of those teams are kind of empowered with these sorts of tools, you'll get more deterministic, more efficient markets that serve all the stakeholders fairly. And I think that's is great to be part of that evolution.
Thanks, Matt. As the former regulator and member of the regulatory affairs team, I have to tell you the regulation is very exciting.
Okay.
We believe you.
I've got one bullet point on this screen that I wanted to elaborate on, linked to the question that we had, and the bullet point is literally, it's the future conversations that we're going to have with clients that excites me. It's really as simple as that. But let me elaborate on kind of what I mean there. So this is not just an off-the-shelf service that anyone can provide. I think we're dealing with sophisticated problems which require deep thought and development to get it right, for all of our clients. And I think those challenging conversations are what excites me the most, as it kind of just keeps us pushing the limits of what we mean by excellence to our community, excellence to our clients. These conversations can go off on certain tangents. They can be quite long. They can be very interesting. I think that's kind of why we get up in the morning, is to try and solve those problems and develop things for our clients in that manner. So as I said before, and I'm probably saying it again, but it is definitely relevant, if this has triggered a thought or a little bit of a brainwave or an idea in anyone's mind today, please do reach out, because I think we can definitely have one of those interesting conversations and potentially take it somewhere. So that's my answer to end on, James. Thank you. Don't think they stole this. I don't think the thunder was stolen too much, so all good.
That's great. So I've got a couple of questions that have come in direct to me, which we can run to now as well. But if there are any more questions for members of the audience, please put them in the sidebar now, or send them over. We can deal with them in the last few minutes we've got. And maybe we want to put the Beaks email address or something in the sidebar as well, just so that people know where to go. Although I'm sure you can all Google Beaks. Okay, so the first question that's come in then, how would market edge intelligence reduce false positives from market surveillance team? Who wants to deal with that one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a number of ways. One of the key, easy ones to understand is around time sort of granularity and the granularity of the events that are being fed into the surveillance platform. So, sometimes you'll find that surveillance teams are getting a feed of trades which are second or millisecond time stamped, and actually on the exchange platform you might find they've got participants operating with extremely fast sort of reaction times, like single digit nanoseconds, we know is the reaction time on Eurex where they publish that. So, the downside of having a feed going into your surveillance platform that has a coarser granularity timestamp is, you will get false positives generated for things like wash trades or, other types of market abuse where actually they're discrete events that are happening. It's just that the time frame is a lot shorter than your surveillance tool is kind of picking up because of the data that's fed it. So market edge intelligence definitely helps from that angle in terms of giving you better quality wire data. I think on the machine learning side as well, like being able to feed in more data sources and combine that helps as well. Did you want to speak to that a little bit, Steve?
Yeah, well, I think one of the areas that is interesting for me is having the machine learning automatically improve itself.
Mm-hmm.
So as you have more data and more user feedback, the tuning, again, in the past, you would have to have data scientists and ML engineers to tune hyperparameters of models. The platform we built here allows that to happen automatically. So more data it gets, the better the results get. So reducing those false positives. It can be, it's an extremely challenging way when you get started with machine learning. The challenge to it, so the potential of it is massive, but making sense of how to tune things and getting actual insight of it is really difficult. So we're trying to make that as easy as possible to get going with.
Just because we're on the subject of more of the surveillance side, there's another question in the sidebar from Jan. Does Edge help improve the detection of insider trades? How does it do that?
It can do. A lot of it helps in terms of automating the workflows and the integration of different sources of information, I guess. So I talked in my previous answer, probably before Jan's question, about how the time frame can actually rule out certain insider trades that would be flagged as kind of insider trades, which actually would have been false positives. But in terms of detecting insider trades, one of the ways in which it can help is by pulling together different sources of information for the model. So there'll be a lot of information about entity ownership, which isn't contained in the trading messages themselves. Edge intelligence is a good tool for integrating that information. And if an analyst is doing that sort of analysis manually using different sources of information, that can be automated using the edge intelligence kind of workflow tools like a Jupyter notebook or other types of automation.
Can I add a little to that as well?
Mm-hmm.
So the precise timing of those events is really important. and bringing in external information about like market announcements. So if one use case could be looking at where there's trading on a particular stock that happens very, very quickly before any market announcement happens. So looking at the reaction time, as you said, some markets, you can have reactions in the single digit nanoseconds, but they can't happen in the past. So if you've got some market behavior which looks suspiciously close to the wire from an announcement, that could flag up that kind of insider trading.
Thanks. I think we touched a little bit on the topic of AI earlier, but there's another question I've got here. Is what do you think of the potential impact of AI when it comes to exchange market integrity? Do you guys have anything further to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think it can definitely help. I don't know if I'd have anything to add on top of what I said earlier. I mean, there's some really interesting different ways. I guess when I was talking about that earlier, I was talking about exchanges having to have a common language around things like, you know, how is adverse selection happening on a platform? Where does the queuing take place? Kind of understanding that the market microstructure in the same way that some of their participants do. And there's some really exciting techniques that you can use to kind of measure the outcomes of the exchange, which use AI/ML techniques, which are explainable to regulators, and which, you know, we don't see as kind of widely used in the marketplace at the moment. So we're really interested in working with exchanges and regulators to kind of understand if those could be adopted more fully. Can't talk about it too much on this call. We're still doing sort of research around it, but yeah, would really like to follow up more with whoever asked that question in person, definitely.
We'll have you on again to do it next time. Okay, so another one. You guys have talked about the surveillance tools that this isn't a surveillance tool, but it integrates with surveillance tools. So, the question is, are there any existing surveillance tools that you already integrate with or plan to integrate with?
I mean, we've spoken to a number of surveillance tool operators in this space, and they're very happy to integrate. You know, we understand the APIs and how we do that integration. Ultimately, you know, both them and us are looking to be kind of customer led by this. So if there's a particular use case where an exchange has a surveillance tool, or they have beaks and they kind of want to have the two working together, then we can make that work. But it would be a kind of, at the moment, we're treating that as a kind of per customer integration rather than something that we kind of advertise.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And I've only got one more question, so if anyone else from the audience wants to come up with another one, jump in now. Can you give me some more examples of the types of blind spots that your market edge intelligence tool could detect? Who wants it?
Mm-hmm. Who wants it?
So we've covered quite a few of those already. I think the interesting things at the moment for me are thinking about the additional blind spots that we haven't considered yet. We're led by our customers, and we're led by our best efforts in what we think are the ways that we can apply machine learning to solve these problems. So we're always on the lookout for problems that are difficult to solve. I think some of the key ones for me are blind spots in those relationships between the behavior that's happening within the exchange, whether it's infrastructure or the participants, and the actual business impact of the exchange. So Matt talked about silos of information in teams before, where you might be looking at the regulations aside from infrastructure and aside from things like latency and aside from the financial impact of the exchange, so how the exchange is performing in terms of the volume that's taking through it. Comparing, benchmarking your exchange performance to other venues and looking at how those impacts happen in real time. I don't think there's many places that are doing that at the moment. I think it's the kind of thing that happens batched up day by day, but not actually looking at those real-time insights that you can see whenever there's a particularly volatile moment during the exchange. I think those moments of volatility are difficult to get real insight on during the events themselves.
I think sorry, James, just to add to that one, it's very similar to the answer that I gave previously, but I actually think that's a question that I would like the audience members to either think about either right now or after the call, which is what are the blind spots that you think either you or your team currently have, and they're really the conversations that we're driving at the moment with all of our client base. I like to see this as the art of the possible, in terms of we have the foundations, we have a product that is able to develop and adapt in a certain way. Where we kind of really need this dialogue, where we really need these conversations, is hand in hand with either exchanges or exchange members, market participants, to help us understand in detail their blind spots. And that really gets the conversation going of, what can we do and what trends can we predict and what machine learning techniques can we adapt to the data. I think each individual on the call probably knows their blind spots better than anyone. So I think that is where these conversations in the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to light a kind of fire under. That's where I see us really working closer with our clients.
That's really interesting. I'm not sure that many people expected homework when they joined this webinar, but I'm glad you've given it to them.
I'm not the guys know I'm not a nice man, James, right? See, so I'll never get contacted after this.
Okay, so we are about to wrap up 10 minutes early, just to show that Beaks is also efficient as well as great at what they do. I don't know if any of you wanted to make a final comment or anything you think we haven't covered.
I think Matt P said it very well. Like we're excited about this space. We're excited about the tools we're developing, and it's about the relationships going forward, and having some interesting discussions.
All right, I'm really sorry, but there's been a cheeky question in the last minute. Tony Mordy says, does Edge support the developments and fine-tuning of real-time alerts tailor-made for security/market by the users? And how do you got 2 questions, Tony, as well, very cheeky. And how do you use AI to ensure their flexibility? I'm hoping you guys can see all of that in the sidebar as well.
Yep, I saw that one pop up there. Do you mind if I tackle this one?
No, go for it, Steve.
So the platform itself automatically balances the noise that it generates. So if there's a series of anomalies about a particular security, it tries to make sure that it doesn't generate too many alerts and only tries to find out what the actionable insight is there. So if there's something that is sending out like way too many anomalies or looks incredibly unusual and stays that way, reducing the false positives out of that is an automatic part of the platform, and can be improved with user feedback as well. And doing that for each security or market or the objects that are important to the exchange. So that might be looking at tuning it by market gateway, by customer, by trading session, by symbol, by partition, those kind of things. Those are the variables that are important to the exchange, and we make those dials accessible to the client.
Amazing.
think
All right.
Tony might have been one of the students that asked for more homework. So good job, Tony. Good job, man.
Thank you, Tony.
Quick turnaround of the homework.
And thanks everyone else for joining the webinar as well. Thanks for Beaks to being part of it and talking us through their fantastic new product. We're going to give you 9 minutes of your day back. Thank you everyone for joining, and hope to see you soon.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, James. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.